Jessica, what is this ridiculous thing still doing in your room? My dad, Vincent, bellowed, pointing at my ceramic pig bank sitting on my dresser. You're 22 years old, not 12. It's embarrassing. I felt my stomach drop as I watched him pick up the bank that had been my most prized possession for the past 10 years. The weight of it told the story of countless birthdays, Christmas gifts, babysitting money, and part-time job earnings, all carefully saved since I was 12 years old. Every coin and bill represented a step closer to my dream of starting my own business after college graduation next month. Dad, please be careful with that. I've been saving that money for my business startup, I said, trying to keep my voice steady while panic rose in my chest. Business. He laughed harshly. You mean that silly online store idea you keep talking about? Jessica, you need to grow up and face reality. Your sister Rachel is the one with real academic potential in this family. The familiar sting of comparison hit me like it always did. Rachel, my 19-year-old sister, was the golden child who could do no wrong in Vincent's eyes. She was pursuing her junior year in communications at an expensive private university while I had worked my way through state school with a business degree, maintaining a 3.8 GPA while working 20 hours a week at a local coffee shop. That money represents years of savings. Dad, I've calculated exactly how much I need for inventory, website development, and initial marketing costs, I explained, reaching out protectively toward my piggy bank. Vincent's expression darkened in a way that made my blood run cold. I had seen this look before, usually right before he made decisions that would benefit Rachel at my expense. The ceramic pig suddenly seemed fragile in his large hands, and I noticed how his knuckles had turned white from gripping it so tightly. You know what your problem is, Jessica? You dream too big for someone with your limitations. Rachel has already been accepted to graduate school while you're playing with toy banks and fantasy businesses. The dismissive tone in his voice cut deeper than any physical blow could have. I watched helplessly as he examined my life savings, turning the bank over in his hands like he was evaluating its worth. The afternoon sunlight streaming through my bedroom window seemed to dim as an ominous feeling settled in my chest. Something terrible was about to happen, and I could sense it in every fiber of my being. But I was powerless to stop whatever Vincent had already decided to do. Growing up in our house in Portland, Oregon, I learned early that Vincent operated by a clear hierarchy. Rachel first, his own needs second, and me somewhere far down the list. My mother had passed away when I was 8, leaving Vincent to raise 2 daughters with vastly different treatment. While Rachel received private tutoring, dance lessons, and the latest clothes, I learned to be grateful for hand-me-downs and public school education. The piggy bank had been my mother's last gift to me before she died. Save your pennies, sweetheart, she had whispered during one of her final hospital visits. Dreams require preparation, and preparation requires patience. I had taken her words to heart, depositing every spare dollar into that ceramic pig for the past 10 years. My business plan wasn't some childish fantasy, despite what Vincent believed. I had spent 2 years researching e-commerce trends, studying successful online retailers, and developing a comprehensive strategy for selling handmade jewelry and accessories. The $23,478 in my piggy bank represented the exact amount I needed to purchase initial inventory, build a professional website, and cover 3 months of operating expenses while establishing my customer base. Rachel, meanwhile, had never shown interest in entrepreneurship or financial responsibility. She spent money as quickly as Vincent provided it, always expecting another deposit into her checking account whenever she called home claiming some urgent need. Her Instagram feed showcased expensive sorority events, designer handbags, and luxury spring break trips, all funded by our father's indulgence of her every whim. Dad, I've already contacted suppliers and identified my target market, I continued, hoping to break through his skepticism. This isn't just a dream. It's a calculated business venture with realistic profit projections. Vincent set the piggy bank down on my desk with a heavy thud that made my heart skip. Jessica, you're living in a fantasy world. Real success comes from education and connections, not playing store on the internet. Rachel understands this, which is why she's focusing on her graduate school applications instead of chasing get-rich schemes. The way he said playing store made my face burn with humiliation. I had worked harder than Rachel ever had, maintaining excellent grades while supporting myself financially throughout college. Every dollar in that bank represented hours of real work, real sacrifice, and real planning for my future. I should have recognized the warning signs in Vincent's dismissive tone and the calculating look in his eyes. I should have hidden my savings somewhere safer than a ceramic pig sitting openly on my dresser. But I trusted that even Vincent, despite his favoritism, wouldn't actually steal from his own daughter. I trusted that family meant something, even in our dysfunctional household. That trust was about to cost me everything I had worked for. But it would ultimately teach me lessons about resilience and determination that no amount of money could have provided. 3 days later, I came home from my final college exam to find Vincent waiting in the living room with both Rachel and my piggy bank. The ceramic pig sat on our coffee table like evidence in a courtroom, and I immediately knew something catastrophic had happened. Rachel was practically bouncing with excitement, her eyes bright with the kind of joy that usually meant she was getting something expensive. "Jessica, sit down. We need to discuss your future," Vincent said, his tone carrying the false authority he used when making pronouncements he knew would upset me. My legs felt weak as I lowered myself onto the couch across from them. The piggy bank looked smaller somehow, less significant, as if Vincent's presence had already diminished its importance. Rachel kept glancing between the bank and me with barely contained glee, like she was watching her favorite movie approach the best scene. "I've been thinking about what you said regarding your business idea," Vincent began. And for one foolish moment, I felt hope bloom in my chest. Maybe he had reconsidered. Maybe he finally understood how seriously I had planned this venture. Rachel needs additional funding for graduate school applications and her final semester expenses. The application fees alone are substantial, and she needs money for interview travel and professional clothing. The hope in my chest transformed into ice-cold dread. I watched Vincent's hands move toward my piggy bank, and every instinct screamed at me to grab it and run. But I sat frozen, unable to process what was happening fast enough to react. "No," I whispered, finally finding my voice. "Dad, that's my money. I've been saving it for 10 years. Jessica, family means supporting each other. Rachel's education is an investment in our family's future. Your online store idea is a risk we can't afford to take right now." Without another word, Vincent picked up my ceramic pig and raised it above his head. The sound it made when it hit our hardwood floor will haunt me forever. A sharp crack followed by the musical scatter of years' worth of coins and bills across our living room. Rachel clapped her hands together like she was watching fireworks. I dropped to my knees, frantically trying to gather the scattered money, while Vincent calmly explained that this was for the best and I would understand when I was older. My hands shook as I collected crumpled 20s and rolled quarters, watching Rachel count out bills with the efficiency of someone who had been expecting this windfall. $23,478. Every penny I had earned, saved, and dreamed over. Gone in 30 seconds of Vincent's selfishness and Rachel's greed. As I knelt on our living room floor, I didn't beg. Instead, I quietly began planning exactly how I would make them both regret this moment for the rest of their lives. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity that surprised me. Instead of the devastation I expected to feel, I found myself analyzing the situation like a business problem that needed solving. Vincent had always underestimated my determination, and Rachel had grown so comfortable with unearned rewards that she never questioned whether she deserved them. These character flaws would become the foundation of their downfall. I spent that first day calling everyone I knew who might lend me money. My college roommate, Maya, agreed to loan me $800 from her summer job savings. My former manager at the coffee shop, Patricia, offered me $1,500 after I explained my situation. My Aunt Carolyn, who had never liked Vincent's treatment of me, surprised me by offering $3,000 with no interest and no deadline for repayment. "Your mother would be ashamed of Vincent's behavior," Aunt Carolyn said over the phone, her voice tight with anger. "She always believed you had more drive than Rachel, and she'd want you to succeed despite your father's cruelty." Within a week, I had secured $7,500 in loans from friends and family members who believed in my potential more than my own father did. It wasn't the full amount I needed, but it was enough to begin. I also applied for 3 business credit cards, carefully calculating exactly how much debt I could manage while living in my childhood bedroom and working full-time. Vincent watched my activities with amused condescension. Still chasing that internet store dream, Jessica? I thought breaking your piggy bank would help you see reality. I'm just exploring options, I replied calmly, refusing to let him see how his words affected me. Let him think I was giving up. Let him believe he had successfully crushed my ambitions. His assumptions about my defeat would make my eventual success even more satisfying. Rachel, meanwhile, had already spent half of my stolen money on a designer wardrobe for her graduate school interviews. She paraded around the house in expensive blazers and shoes, posting Instagram photos with captions about investing in my future and grateful for family support. Each post felt like salt in an open wound, but I screenshot every one of them for future reference. I moved my base of operations to the local library, spending 12 hours a day researching suppliers, building my website, and developing marketing strategies. Without the comfort of my planned budget, I had to become more creative and resourceful than I ever imagined possible. I learned to negotiate better deals with wholesalers, discovered free marketing channels I hadn't previously considered, and developed cost-cutting strategies that would actually make my business more profitable in the long run. My first order of inventory arrived 2 weeks after Vincent destroyed my piggy bank. 24 sets of handmade silver earrings, 43 necklaces, and 67 bracelets, all carefully selected from 3 different artisan suppliers who agreed to extended payment terms in exchange for exclusive online distribution rights. I photographed each piece using natural light from my bedroom window, wrote compelling product descriptions, and launched my website on a Tuesday morning in June. Vincent discovered my activities when packages started arriving at our house. Jessica, what is all this junk? I thought we agreed you were giving up this nonsense. We never agreed to anything, I replied, carefully unpacking a shipment of velvet jewelry pouches. You stole my money and gave it to Rachel. I never agreed that was acceptable. His face darkened with the familiar anger I had learned to navigate carefully. Don't use that tone with me, young lady. I'm trying to help you avoid making costly mistakes. But I was no longer the passive daughter who accepted his decisions without question. Vincent's theft had burned away my need for his approval, leaving behind something harder and more focused than he had ever seen from me. I was no longer trying to please him or prove myself worthy of equal treatment. I was simply determined to build something he couldn't destroy, no matter what it cost me. My first sale came 3 days after launching the website. A woman in Seattle purchased 2 pairs of silver earrings for $68, and I felt more pride in that transaction than I had ever felt about any grade or achievement in my entire life. This money was mine, earned through my own effort and vision, untouchable by Vincent's favoritism or Rachel's entitlement. The order started slowly, $5 here, $30 there. But each sale validated my business model and proved Vincent wrong about online retail being a fantasy. I reinvested every penny of profit back into inventory, gradually expanding my product line and building relationships with additional suppliers who offered unique pieces I couldn't find anywhere else. Rachel, meanwhile, was struggling with her graduate school applications despite having my stolen money to fund her efforts. I overheard her crying to Vincent about rejection letters and failed interviews, complaining that other candidates seemed more prepared and motivated than she was. Vincent consoled her by promising additional funding for application consultants and interview coaching, apparently believing that money could solve problems that required actual effort and talent. Maybe I should take a gap year, Rachel suggested during one of these conversations. I could use the time to build my resume and gain more experience. Absolutely not, Vincent replied firmly. You're not going to waste this opportunity like your sister wasted hers. We invested too much in your education to let you give up now. His words revealed how he viewed both of his daughters. Rachel as an investment that needed to pay off, and me as a write-off who had already failed to meet his expectations. This transactional approach to parenting would eventually cost him relationships with both of us. But at the time, I was grateful for his clarity about where I stood. By August, my online store was generating consistent daily sales. I had developed a social media presence that attracted customers from across the country, and several fashion bloggers had featured my jewelry in their posts. Most importantly, I had proven to myself that I could build something meaningful from nothing, using only determination and creativity as my primary resources. Vincent noticed my success reluctantly, making dismissive comments whenever packages arrived or customers called our house phone with questions. "I suppose you're making a few dollars with your little hobby," he said one evening, unable to completely ignore the evidence of my growing business. "It's not a hobby, Dad. It's a legitimate company with real customers and actual profits." "Don't get carried away, Jessica. A few online sales don't constitute a real business. Wait until you face serious competition or economic challenges." But I had already faced the biggest challenge of all, starting over after losing everything I had worked for. Vincent's theft had forced me to develop resilience and resourcefulness that no amount of saved money could have provided. I was no longer the naive young woman who trusted family members with her dreams. I had become someone who expected obstacles and planned for setbacks. Someone who viewed every problem as an opportunity to become stronger and more independent. The transformation wasn't just financial. I was sleeping better, standing straighter, and speaking with confidence I had never possessed before. People responded to this new version of myself differently. Customers trusted my product recommendations. Suppliers respected my professionalism, and even strangers seemed to take me more seriously. Vincent's cruelty had accidentally created exactly the kind of person who could build a successful business despite limited resources and family opposition. As autumn approached, I began planning the revelation that would show Vincent and Rachel exactly what their theft had cost them and what it had ultimately created in me. By November, my business was generating more monthly revenue than my old coffee shop job had provided in 3 months. I had expanded beyond jewelry to include handmade scarves, artisan soaps, and custom gift boxes, all sourced from small businesses across the Pacific Northwest. My customer base had grown to over 2,000 people, and my website traffic was increasing by 15% each month. The success was intoxicating, but it also highlighted how completely Vincent had misjudged both of his daughters. While my business thrived, Rachel had been rejected from 5 of her 6 graduate school applications. The one acceptance came from a program that required substantial additional funding, beyond what Vincent had already provided from my stolen savings. "I don't understand what's happening," Vincent confided to his brother during a phone conversation I overheard from the kitchen. "Rachel interviewed well and her test scores were decent, but these schools keep choosing other candidates. Meanwhile, Jessica is constantly receiving packages and making phone calls about her internet business. I'm starting to wonder if I made the right decision about that piggy bank money." His doubt came too late to change anything, but it revealed that even Vincent was beginning to recognize the pattern of consequences his favoritism had created. Rachel's failures weren't just bad luck or temporary setbacks. They were the predictable result of a lifetime of unearned rewards and inflated expectations. I decided it was time to force the conversation that Vincent had been avoiding. On a Saturday morning in December, I asked both him and Rachel to sit down for a family meeting. Rachel assumed I wanted to discuss Christmas plans or household responsibilities. But Vincent looked suspicious, as if he sensed something significant was coming. "I want to show you something." I began, opening my laptop to display my business dashboard. "These are my sales figures for the past 6 months." The screen showed gross revenue of $47,000 with net profits of $19,000 after inventory costs and business expenses. Vincent's eyes widened as he processed the numbers while Rachel leaned forward to read the figures with obvious surprise. "This can't be accurate," Vincent said slowly. "You started this business with borrowed money after the piggy bank situation. How did you generate this much revenue so quickly?" "The same way I saved $23,000 over 10 years, I replied calmly. "Through consistent effort, careful planning, and refusing to give up when obstacles appeared." Rachel's face had gone pale as she began to understand the implications of what I was showing them. "But I thought your business was just a hobby." "You never said you were making real money." I learned not to share important information with people who might use it against me, I said, looking directly at Vincent. Some family members can't be trusted with other people's dreams or financial resources. Vincent struggled to find words that could address the enormous miscalculation he was beginning to recognize. Jessica, if I had known you could actually build something this successful, I might have made different decisions about your savings. No, Dad, you wouldn't have. You made your decision based on who you believed Rachel and I were, not on who we actually are or what we were capable of achieving. Rachel has spent my money on clothes and parties while failing to gain admission to graduate school. I built a business that generates more monthly profit than most people's salaries. The difference isn't luck or timing, it's character. The silence that followed was heavy with implications none of us wanted to address directly. Vincent was facing the reality that his favoritism had funded failure while sabotaging success. Rachel was confronting evidence that unearned money couldn't substitute for genuine ability or effort. And I was finally ready to reveal the full extent of what their theft had ultimately cost them. I have an announcement to make, I continued, pulling up another screen on my laptop that showed projections for the coming year. Next month, I'll be featured in Pacific Northwest Business Magazine as one of their rising entrepreneurs under 25. The article focuses on how I built a successful e-commerce business with minimal startup capital and innovative marketing strategies. Vincent's face went completely white as the implications hit him. Jessica, what exactly will this article say about your startup funding? The truth, I replied simply, that I began with $7,500 in loans from friends and family after my father destroyed my life savings and gave every penny to my sister for her failed graduate school applications. The reporter was particularly interested in how adversity can sometimes create stronger entrepreneurs than comfortable circumstances would have produced. Rachel made a small choking sound. You told a journalist about the piggy bank, about Dad giving me your money. The story resonated with the magazine's editor because it demonstrates how determination can overcome family betrayal. They're planning to use it as their cover story for the February issue with the headline, "From Broken Dreams to Business Success: How One Young Woman Turned Family Theft into Entrepreneurial Triumph." Vincent stood up abruptly, his face flushed with anger and panic. You can't publish something like that, Jessica. It will destroy our family's reputation. People will think I'm a terrible father. People will think exactly what the evidence shows them to think. I responded calmly. I'm not publishing lies or exaggerations. I'm sharing the documented truth about what happened and how I responded to it. The reporter had been fascinated by my story, especially the details about Vincent's favoritism and Rachel's waste of my stolen money. She had verified the timeline of events, reviewed my business records, and even interviewed several of the friends who had loaned me startup funds after my savings were stolen. The article would be comprehensive, factual, and devastating to Vincent's reputation in our community. This is revenge, Vincent said quietly, sinking back into his chair with the defeated posture of someone who finally understood the consequences of his actions. This is success, I corrected him. Revenge would be doing something to hurt you. Success is building something you can't destroy, no matter how much you want to. The article was published on a Tuesday morning in February, exactly 2 years after Vincent had smashed my piggy bank. By noon, our phone was ringing constantly with calls from neighbors, family, friends, and Vincent's business associates who had read the story. Pacific Northwest Business Magazine had a circulation of over 50,000 readers, and the online version was being shared extensively on social media platforms. Vincent's face crumpled as he read his own words quoted in the article. Dreams require realistic expectations, and Jessica needed to focus on practical goals instead of fantasy businesses. The contrast between his dismissive statement and my actual business success made his judgment appear both cruel and spectacularly wrong. Rachel had locked herself in her bedroom after discovering that the article included specific details about how she had spent my stolen money on sorority fees, designer clothing, and spring break trips instead of the educational purposes Vincent had claimed to support. Her Instagram posts were screenshot and included as evidence of the frivolous spending that my savings had funded, while I struggled to rebuild from nothing. I never imagined it would be this public, Vincent said, holding a printed copy of the magazine with my photograph on the cover. Jessica, I was trying to help Rachel succeed. I thought you would find another way to pursue your goals. You were trying to help your favorite daughter at the expense of your other daughter, I replied. The publicity is just people learning the truth about what kind of father and what kind of sister I was dealing with. My phone rang with congratulations from customers, suppliers, and other entrepreneurs who had read the article. Several business owners offered partnership opportunities, and 3 different venture capital firms expressed interest in providing funding for my expansion plans. Vincent's theft had accidentally launched me into exactly the kind of success he had never believed I could achieve. The revenge was complete, and it tasted better than I had ever imagined it would. Vincent's standing in the Portland business community collapsed within weeks of the magazine article's publication. His insurance agency lost several major clients who questioned his judgment and character after learning how he had sabotaged one daughter's legitimate business dreams to fund another daughter's irresponsible spending habits. Professional colleagues, who had respected his opinions, began excluding him from industry discussions and networking events, while neighbors avoided him at community gatherings. Rachel faced social humiliation when her sorority sisters and university classmates discovered she had been funding her lifestyle with money stolen from her sister's decade-long savings effort. She was forced to withdraw from her one graduate school acceptance when Vincent could no longer afford the additional funding, and her reputation among peers was permanently tainted by the public revelation of her role in the family's financial betrayal. Both father and daughter found themselves isolated from the community respect and social connections they had previously taken for granted, learning too late that reputation, once destroyed, could never be fully restored. As I celebrated reaching $100,000 in annual revenue from my expanded online business, I reflected on how Vincent's betrayal had forced me to develop the resilience and creativity that made my success more meaningful than any inheritance or family support could have provided. The journey had taught me that authentic achievement comes not from others' approval or resources, but from the determination to build something valuable despite every obstacle placed in your path. And I wouldn't trade that hard-earned wisdom for all the piggy bank money in the world.